Typically, when we're talking about prototyping, especially with AI tools, we're usually talking about building things that are just on the client. The main difference between that and, like a full stack application is usually the combination of adding in like a server and a database. You're going to have things like your email integration, file or blob storage as well, right? Payment is pretty typical with Stripe. You have to have auth of some kind and product analytics of some kind, and then some type of log analytics.
That's like a lot of stuff to vibe code, man. That's a lot.
So if you tried to deploy this app, it wouldn't work. You have a request to the backend, right, from your client side to generate the image to this endpoint that you made API transform, but it's sending it right to localhost 3001. So these are some good examples of like the types of things that AI can make mistakes on. What I built is a little template that has like what I think are the most common necessary features to build a SaaS project.
So basically, let's recap the steps, okay, to build a real product. Okay, welcome everyone. Today my guest is Colin Matthews, the one and only. Colin's a good friend. He's taught a lot of students how to build stuff with AI and like build real shit, not just like random prototypes, like real stuff, real apps that you can actually get paying customers for. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Like I vibe coded a pretty crappy nano banana image prototyper thing. and then me and Colin are going to convert that into a real SaaS app. Okay, so welcome, Colin.
Yeah, happy to be back. I think this is my third time now.
Yeah, great. All right, so why don't you start by talking about what the difference between a vibe coded prototype and an app is?
Sure, yeah. So I actually have a quick visual to help us out here. So let me share my screen really quick. So if you've heard me talk about software at all, you've probably seen me talk about this before. Client servers and databases. So typically when we're talking about prototyping, especially with AI tools, we're usually talking about building things that are just on the client. So like this is what you see in the UI, right? So if I build something in like Bolt or Replit or Lovable, a lot of the time and the attention is actually spent on like getting it to look correct and making it like feel good and all that kind of stuff. The main difference between that and, like a full stack application is usually the combination of adding in like a server and a database. So something to handle like application logic, things like how users log in and that kind of stuff, as well as obviously storing data over time. And then the only other major thing that people like to add usually is like third-party integrations, right? So this would be things like, your Gmail integration or something similar. And usually that's talking to your server. So these are kind of the main components, like prototype, really just a pretty picture, right? Just the client, full stack app, client server database, and then some third-party integrations typically.
But when it comes to like a SaaS app, there's usually is like a set of common features that most of these apps have, right? Like
yeah, exactly. So we can kind of pull some of those in here, but typically you're going to have things like your email integration, right? So that's going to be like a third party, so you can send transactional emails. I might have like file or blob storage as well, right? Payment is pretty typical with Stripe. You have to have auth of some kind, and usually you don't want to roll your own auth, meaning like you don't build it yourself. You use pre-existing auth tools. Mm-hmm. And then kind of, I would say a bare minimum in terms of like the product and engineering side, you want to have product analytics of some kind. So understand user behavior, and then some type of log analytics. And this is specific to errors. So like if you're familiar with the tool Sentry, that's what I'm talking about, but like capturing errors in the product.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's like a lot of stuff to vibe code, man. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Can you actually show the vibe code thing that I have?
Sure. Yeah. So right now we have like well, I guess you can explain it if you'd prefer.
Yeah, this is my really amazing Headshot Pro AI app. You can see it's very professional. Basically, you can upload a headshot, and then it will use Google Nano Banana to generate a more professional looking headshot of yourself. And hopefully it still works. Did you try it to make sure it works?
Yeah, yeah, it works. It works.
Okay, it still works? Okay, great.
Yeah. And how did you build this? Just curious.
Oh, that was good, man. Yeah.
Perfect.
How did I build this? I use Claude Code and just like vibe coded it. And then I had to give it like a bunch of instructions to use Gemini's APIs and like a bunch of documentation.
Yeah.
I was able to get it to work. There's actually a tutorial that I can link to if you want to vibe code this. Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was just going to comment, like, you can perfectly see why I no longer have hair based on this image. the hairline's pretty far back. I think the AI got that right. But anyway,
okay.
So so this I would say is like closer-ish to a prototype. In that like you don't have all those extra things. And then also, just for fun, we'll do like a quick review of your code. So you do have a front end and a back end, right? So you have a client and you have a server, which is already like one step up because you don't necessarily need to have a server for this type of application if you're just running it locally. But you have that working, which is great. And then there's just a couple of like things though. We'll just try to point out a few on the back end here in terms of like how things are working. So if we hop into like your Gemini stuff, you can see like here's your prompt and all that good stuff, right? So you probably did you write this prompt manually or did AI generate this for you?
I worked with AI to write the prompt. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then it's sending the request over to Gemini and doing all this good stuff. And honestly, like this is fine because this is just that kind of third-party integration stuff that we talked about a second ago, right? Like sending a request over to Google and getting the results back, not a huge deal. In terms of like the overall setup, so there are some things that are like are a little bit off. Let's see if I can find a good example here. Let's go into this one here. So one like good example is that your images are base 64 encoded text. Like usually you reference a file, but it's just a super long text string that like the preview images that you have or like mock images. So it's like kind of a weird AI-y thing. Not necessarily like super incorrect, but kind of like an odd thing to do in terms of a decision to make. And then another good one, let's see if I can find it in here. I think we have a local host somewhere. You actually have, I believe, the local host URL directly in the code somewhere. Let's see. Yeah. So, well, basically, yeah, right here. So what that means is like you have a request to the backend, right, from your client side to generate the image to this endpoint that you made API transform, but it's sending it right to localhost 3001. So if you tried to deploy this app, it wouldn't work. And so
you mean localhost doesn't work?
Yeah. So these are some good examples of like the types of things that AI, even when like you're building something that's a bit more complex, can make mistakes on, right? And like just some small things that you'd want to fix or change.
Okay.
And then obviously like the big thing would be adding like auth and Stripe and all the other things we talked about, right?
Yeah. All right. So you have this template, right? Where you've actually added all this stuff. Can you show it to us?
Yeah, for sure. So what I built is a little template that has like what I think are the most common necessary features to build a SaaS project. So the template itself is just a to-do list. The intent would be that like, you replace this page with whatever you're building. But you can see that it has like pricing, right? And we can go and upgrade to Pro. That'll send us over to Stripe to actually complete the purchase. It comes with our obviously like login and stuff. Let me just hop back over here. Login, so you can sign in and sign out. Right now it's using Google Auth for that. You can also set up with like GitHub Auth or really whatever you want. And then also comes with an AI chat. And actually, I'm in the process of swapping this over to the new agent kit from OpenAI as the backend. So that'll be kind of fun. And then also on the settings side, you can, like toggle your email preferences and it comes with an integration with SendGrid. And then also like the other stuff, like I mentioned. So like post-hog for product analytics and for error capture and some other like small things behind the scenes.
And sorry, did you mention there's a way to get paid? Like a set payment?
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you just set up whatever you want and you'd just prompt like change this text. Right. But you'd prompt or you just throw in your Stripe ID and then you can collect payment from Stripe.
Okay. All right, man.
This episode is brought to you by Composio. Most of the paying and shipping AI features doesn't come from the model, but from the integrations. You're dealing with messy APIs, fragile tool calls, and hours lost to debugging and figuring out why something broke in Slack or Salesforce. Composio gives you one SDK to connect to 800 plus apps like Slack, GitHub, Gmail, Jira, and they built the Rube.app that plugs all of those apps straight into an AI chat, so you can just ask, pull me the latest metrics from Mixpanel and update linear. Now, instead of fighting with APIs, you can focus on actually shipping faster. Check it out at getrube.link/Peter or the link in the video description. Now back to the episode.
Why don't you start a process of putting this thing, like putting my vibe coder thing in here, and then we can talk about some other topics while I was trying to program.
Yeah, that sounds good. So basically, we're going to try to convert your prototype to a full stack app, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to start by actually taking a look at your code here. And I just want to quickly break down what your code is, so people have a general sense of like how this works. So you can actually see you have these two folders, right? So you have backend and front end code. Backend code, this is your server side code like we talked about, right? So this is really just the integration with Gemini. There's really not much else going on here. We'll probably copy your prompts so that we maintain the prompts the same way. Everything else, I honestly will just have the AI regenerate this code because there's nothing like super useful. It's just a call to the LLM, to Gemini to generate the image.
Okay.
And then on the front end, you can see in the front end, you have different kind of like elements in here. One of those elements is components. So you have like a style selector component, a result display, an image uploader, and a download button. And then you kind of have like this main file called app.jsx. that just imports all these components and kind of puts them in the page. Kind of like Legos, right? So like we have all these individual Legos and you're assembling those Legos in the page. So what I can really easily do and what anyone can do is take the components that you built and bring those with us into the full stack app if we want to. So we can try to maintain like some of the visual styling of what you have in the prototype.
Okay, I think it's up to you. I'm not that proud of the visual styling, but yeah, I think it's up to you.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it just for fun. So cool. Let's go ahead and start kind of moving this over. And literally what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this on this side, like go like this on this side. And you can see this is the template, by the way, the code I have over here. And you'll see a very similar kind of structure. So we have the client side code, we have server code, right? Same as you, client, like front end and back end. And then in the client, if we go into here, we'll see a folder called components, right? So this pattern will repeat itself all the time of like how your code is organized. So I'm going to create a new folder here called Peter components. And I'm literally just going to drag over your files. And that's all we need to do. And you, by the way, you can do this also with like cloud-based tools. So like Replit allows you to drag in files and like right into the file system, and you can just bring in your components, maybe build the prototype in like V0 and you want to, make it better in Replit. You can move stuff around in the same way.
Okay. So what else? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did also ask it to build us a little spec based on your stuff here. So let me just close this down a little bit and see what we have. So I just asked it to generate, a .md file for rebuilding your thing, just basically describing the requirements for it, so I didn't have to rewrite it all. So this is currently a prototype application. We're going to rebuild it. I'm going to get rid of some of the, or like modify some of this. Specifically, I'm going to say that the components are in Peter components because we just made that folder. And yeah, I'm going to kind of get rid of a lot of the backend service stuff that you have already. Just because we can kind of clean up some of this ourselves. The rest of this looks fine. Oh yeah, and it automatically extracted your prompts, which is nice. And nice. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I'm going to, again, delete some of this. Yeah, we'll get rid of a lot of this extra stuff. This is a lot of code and just stuff I don't really need. I just really need this top part here. And this is going to become our prompt. So I'm going to basically take this, head over to our actual application, and throw this into Claude. And I mean, I know you've done tutorials on Claude Code, so I will probably won't spend a ridiculous amount of time on like explaining Claude Code, but I am going to put it on plan mode first, just so that I make sure that the result that we get, aligns to what we're expecting before we kick it off.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so just to recap, you dragged and dropped some component files into your template.
Yep.
And you in my original repository, you asked Claude to generate an MD file. And the prompt is like, hey, if I want to rebuild this somewhere else, like, what do I need, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then it magically included prompts in the MD file.
Yeah, it just extracted I would say all the important stuff and probably a lot of non-important stuff. So you can see like I deleted, it was 800 lines because Claude likes to talk. I think I got it down to 80 lines. It was just, I just needed the spec. I didn't need the, the whole thing, all your existing code. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool.
So let's just do a quick read through. And actually, I think this will be really interesting to kind of like illustrate the difference between the prototype, right, and what we actually have in a production application. So the first thing it says is that we need to change the database schema, right? So this is how we're storing information inside the database. And let me just see if I can run something really quick to make this feel a little bit more real. Give me one sec. Cool. So this is like a database explorer that you can run locally on your computer if you're using the template or the same kind of technology or tools that I'm using. And so when we talk about changing the schema, what we're referring to is like right now in this database, there is nowhere to store anything that is relevant to these requirements, right? Like we have items for the to-do list. We have user information. So like my email and my ID. We have file storage, and that's it. So the first thing Claude is telling us that we have to do, and this is a very common thing that you need to do, is to change the database. So we need a headshots table. We also need a credits table to track user credits. I'm probably going to modify the plan a little bit because I don't actually care about tracking user credits. So I'll say don't need to track user credits, at least for now. And then let's see what else we got. We have the backend routes that need to be built. And you're going to see a couple of good things here, right? So we're going to require authentication. This is one like critical thing whenever you're building a full stack app. Every backend endpoint should be checking, is the user logged in and are they allowed to perform this action?
Yeah.
Right. So this is another kind of main difference between just a vibe coded prototype and building something real. And then it looks like everything else is pretty similar, right? Like all that stuff there. I am going to say like we don't need to upload the image to Firebase storage. So don't store files in Firebase storage, just to keep things simpler for now for file storage. Let's see what else here. And then front-end integration, it's going to build a page for the headshots. It's going to use your existing components that we already have, integrate authentication, all that good stuff, credit checks, payment integration. So we already have the payment plan. It's going to put 3 headshots per month for free. That's fine. Okay. Gemini integration, the file storage integration to store the files over time. I'm going to skip this one just for the sake of time. But obviously, like we would want to store the images over time, right, for the user.
Yeah.
And then also really important unit tests. So just in case people aren't familiar, typically you'd want to write unit tests against code so that you can automatically run these tests. And that way, when the AI makes changes, you can test if things are broken. So unit tests are a way to like avoid manual testing all the time, right? So it's going to write some unit tests for us as well. And then actually apply the database migration changes. So, but basically what this means is like, we will have new code, but we actually need to apply that code to the database to make the database have a different schema. We can't just like have the code be different than the real database. We need to apply that change.
Got it. Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll go ahead and kick this off. And I'll just say, give me back an updated plan and go from there.
So you're gonna do all these steps at once, or?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna try to like Claude do all these steps at once. Yeah. Honestly, like this change seems kind of big, but it's really not. It's just a Gemini integration. Yeah. One of the cool things, by the way, about having a template like this, you don't have to use my template, just generally, is that Claude is making better decisions because of the existing patterns in the code base on how things work, right? Like it's not inferring how the backend should be set up or inferring how tests should be set up. It's looking at examples of how things are set up already. And so it makes it a lot easier actually to do like changes like this, where it feels complicated, but it's actually just copying existing patterns. Cool. Let me just give this a peruse. All right. Well, I'm not going to read this whole thing, so hopefully this works. So we're going to say yes, and then it'll do its thing.
And you're using VS Code, right? Just because it has like a native integration of Claude Code?
Yeah, it's just a little bit nicer from like a UX perspective than the terminal, right? So like you get this nice little markdown editor, and you can kind of scroll up and down with the text at the bottom there, like the input. So it's just a little bit cleaner.
Yeah, that is cleaner.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's going to work for a while now, right?
Yes. As you can see, we have about a dozen to-dos to work through. So this will probably take a minute.
Okay, so let's go talk about some other things while this does its job. So let's go back to your exact draw thing. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about. So we did a previous video on like our favorite AI coding tools, right?
Yeah.
But now I think there's like a lot more out there, and like I think you prepared some diagrams about the difference between some of these prototyping vibe coding tools.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess to start with, like some pretty popular ones, Lovable and Bolt, a few others actually nowadays too. They're all using Supabase on the back end. So even this is kind of fun for the folks who don't know, is Lovable and Bolt just announced their own clouds, right? So like literally, I think a week ago now, or maybe 2 weeks, they're like, oh yeah, you can integrate directly with our own backend services. What really happened is Supabase released a feature that allows companies to white label Supabase inside their products. And so it's still literally Supabase. And even if you look at the code, it literally references Supabase inside the code.
So it's like a branding thing.
It's 100% a branding thing. There's literally no difference in the features, functionality, or anything between the prior existence of Bolt integrating with Supabase or Lovable and what you have today. It is exactly the same.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
it's kind of funny because like the people that these companies are targeting, like I have no clue what the hell a cloud or Supabase is.
Sure.
So
Yeah. I agreed. I think it's just like I think a lot of it is just competitiveness in terms of like, oh, this is the best tool because we have our own backend, or this is the best tool because we have the best Figma integration. But anyway, one of the things that's interesting about these tools, so specifically using Supabase as a backend, is that by default, they actually don't have a server. So if we go back up to like this pattern that we talked about so far, the way that they work is basically Supabase controls the server for you. So there's kind of like this little thin layer at the back here where every table that you have in your database automatically gets a corresponding API endpoint, basically meaning they auto-generate the server for you, but you don't control that server. And so on one hand, that's really interesting and cool because that means that you don't have to write any of the server-side code, right? On the other hand, one of the downsides about that is that you don't have the ability to modify into the server-side code. Like it's auto-generated. And so, especially from a security perspective, this becomes a problem. And so they have this system called RLS, which is basically a configuration system for who should be able to access what. Because the server would typically handle that in like the normal stack that we have. It would decide like, is the user allowed to perform this action? But that doesn't exist in this context. And one really interesting thing is that by default, the RLS rules for every Supabase project you set up are completely open. So any user can access any information. And this is like the primary driver behind why you hear about like vibe coded tools being insecure, is because people are building on top of this system and they have no idea that RLS or any of this stuff even exists and that they've built on top of it, or how to modify it or improve it, right? Like how to configure it correctly. And so they're building these systems that like are not secure because, you know, it's not that Supabase is inherently bad. It's just that like, you don't know what's actually happening behind the scenes.
Wait. So what does RLS stand for? Or is that like an acronym?
Yeah. You know what? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like it's like rules and some type of rule-based access system. Yeah.
Okay. And then if I go, like, is there some sort of settings or thing for me to change this stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So inside of these tools, if you prompt them to like ask about your RLS rules, they will tell you what they are. But by default, it is completely open. And then you have to configure it to be correct. So one, like Lovable did add a thing where like, wait, if you publish your application, they'll pop up a warning and say like, hey, anyone can access the data in your product right now. Do you want to change that? And then you basically try to prompt your way to these rules. But again, like you're reliant on the AI to configure it correctly, which is a little bit scary.
That's kind of crazy. So, okay. So if I build a app using these tools and then, like, let's say I have a user table with like the user information, right? Because people sign up and stuff. So you're saying that anyone can just get the email for all the users?
Yeah. By default. Yep.
That's crazy, dude.
So it requires the user to, like the person authoring the project, like, you know, the user of Lovable Bolt, to modify those rules and set them up correctly. But I guess my point here is that like the vast majority of people using these tools don't know those rules even exist, right?
But why doesn't Lovable and Bolt fix the stuff? They don't know which table is which or something?
It's more so that like this is just how Supabase works, that like because they're trying to make it simple by not having you have a server, you still have to have a server though in order to access the data in the database. And so this is the simple version, which is like you use a rule system instead of actually having code. But again, I think it's actually more complex or like more difficult to understand for the average person. Whereas I think like if you have this, it becomes a lot more clear, like if there's issues in the server, where those issues are.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't think it's too difficult to set up a server, right? Like especially if you have like some very powerful model to do it for you.
Yeah. No, it's not difficult at all.
Okay.
And hosting is pretty straightforward and all that kind of stuff, right? You can host on like Vercel or Render, or even Replit. Like this is the stack Replit uses as well behind the scenes. So Replit, I would say, is like that's one of the reasons I prefer Replit, is because not because of like the AI coding tools or anything like that. It's literally like what stack are they using and how likely is it that someone's going to make a mistake that they're going to really regret, right?
Wow. This is like new news to me. I didn't know about any of this.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I mean, like I built an app on Lovable the other day and it did fine, but like, I had to go through and configure the RLS rules to make sure that everything was correct. So,
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we should email the Lovable people after this.
Oh, they all know. If you've read anything online about like vibe coding tools being insecure, this is the thing that is like the primary security vulnerability. There's lots of other stuff that people make mistakes with, but this is the primary one.
Wow. Okay. I have a hot take. Like, I feel like even as a complete non-technical person, like I don't think like Claude Code or Cursor or whatever these like more advanced tools are actually that hard to use. Like you're literally just like typing to chat, right?
Yep.
I mean, I don't actually think they're actually much more hard to use than some of these like web-based tools.
Yeah, I would agree for sure.
Yeah.
I think again, like part of the job of like a Lovable or something like that is to convince you that the complexity is low, so you feel like you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. But again, if we go back like kind of the image up above, at some point in time, like you will need to add payment. And they have a Stripe integration, but like you still need to go into Stripe and set it all up. You'll have to add email. You have to add like, and if you don't understand how these systems work, I think at the end of the day, like when you have a bug with your email system, and the only thing you can do is like prompt Lovable to say fix my email system. Like that's the challenging part, right? And so like not to try to dissuade anyone from doing this type of work, because obviously I think everyone should try and learn, but at the same time I think it's important to not treat it as like I want to get to the outcome as fast as possible, and I don't care at all about how anything is working, and more so to say like, okay, like how does this actually work behind the scenes, and try to learn some of that stuff.
Got it. Okay, cool. Do you want to check the VS Code, see if the things
Sure.
are generated?
Yeah.
I was asking.
So let's see. We want to generate and apply database migration. So this is actually interesting. We kind of got stuck here. I must have asked for permission a little bit a while ago, but it's asking us to apply a change to the database. This is another really good thing in terms of a pattern, because typically what happens is most AI coding tools will just modify your database directly, which is terrifying. What this is doing is it's generating a file to basically tell us what it's going to change. And then we apply that change, and it makes it easy to make sure that our databases are always kind of like in sync and up to date. So this is something called migration. And again, this is like a pattern that you'd want to learn and consistently do, rather than just allowing like an AI agent to write SQL queries against your database and just change anything at any point in time. That's a little bit terrifying. And again, that's the default pattern.
Yeah, because if you scrub the UI, you can change it back pretty easily. But if you scrub the database, it's harder, right?
Yeah. And even like with undos, I know a lot of people are reliant on like trying stuff and undoing it. You can't undo a database change the same way you can undo a code change, right? So generally speaking, you want to be like a little bit more certain that, you know, things are going to work.
Yeah. So you don't dangerously skip permissions?
No, I don't. Cool. So it's going to run through this. I'm going to probably have to pay attention for a second as it installs some stuff.
Okay. And you have like a database. The reason it's doing this is because you already set up a database with your template that has like some basic tables.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have a database that has like the user storage information, that has the Stripe integration. So it stores like the relevant Stripe IDs and stuff like that. So again, like the template is there. It's not, I'm not going to claim that it's like a prerequisite, obviously, like you don't need it. But the purpose of it is to like help people avoid common mistakes, especially on the security front. And maybe this is interesting while we're waiting. I actually had the pen test, or I had the template pen tested by a security firm before, you know, I gave it to anyone just for fun.
What is a pen test?
Oh, sure. Yeah, great question. So basically, it's like a security review where they attempt to extract information from your website or from your app. And there's like a bunch of very common attack patterns that attackers use. And so they run through all those attack patterns against your application and see what they can exploit. And then at the end, they kind of give you a report on like what you need to update or modify in order to be secure.
Is that like a lot of money to do a pen test?
It's like a couple $1,000.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you gotta be serious. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, like if I'm going to give the code to people, then, you know, like it's my template multiplied by 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 times. Yeah. It's worth it to spend a couple $1,000s to make sure that I'm giving people secure code. For the average person, probably a little bit out of reach.
Got it. Okay.
All right, we are back, and here's what we have. So what it did is actually added it to the nav bar, right? It didn't necessarily replace what we had. That's okay. We could, you know, ask it to take some stuff out later. Okay. But theoretically, so let's just take a look quickly at the UI, and then we'll try to see if it actually works. So in pricing, it did not update our pricing page, it looks like. So no headshots. I don't see anything here. That's okay. And then in the headshots here, though, we do have like a counter for the number used this month. And let's give it a try. One thing you'll notice is like it's using your components, right? So that part worked. So we'll click choose image. We'll grab our picture here. We have this guy here, generate headshot, and we'll see if it works. Cool. Okay, so new error. Failed to generate, not supported. So this is likely an error because we didn't pass in the right documentation. And again, this is where like some debugging is obviously helpful. So if we just take a look at this, we can see it says Gemini 2.0 Flash XP image preview. So this is likely the same issue that you had before, Peter, which is like it's not using the right model.
Yeah,
right?
dude. Yeah.
And so we're just going to go ahead and this is actually a really common pain point of LLMs is like they don't have up-to-date information, right? Like the training cutoff. And so they don't know how everything works. So we're going to have to go find the Gemini Nano Banana docs. Let's see. This one here. And we're going to want to pass in the relevant documentation and just ask it to update it. So we're doing image to image editing. And I'm just basically going to copy the docs here, paste this in, and say, you're using the wrong model. And again, I'm going to turn on plan mode because honestly, I pretty much never, I don't know if you do, but I never kick it off without doing plan mode first. I always alternate between planning and implementation.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea of like letting it do a bunch of stuff on its own. I have no idea what it's doing.
Okay. But does the rest of does the SaaS stuff work? Like the auth and everything? It should be the same, right?
Yep. Yeah, it still works. So we can hop back into that for a second. So let's go to here. So we can sign out. We can sign in. We can hop into our pricing page in a second here. We can upgrade to Pro. I want to actually obviously upgrade, but we have our pricing set up here. If we wanted to change this would be just like a setting in Stripe that we change. We don't actually change the code anywhere. And yes.
Okay, but to make this payment thing work for my stuff, I have to enter my own Stripe information?
Yeah, exactly. So you would have to enter in your own Stripe keys, and that's just part of the env file, like similar to the API key that we have for Google. You just put in your own like environment variables, basically.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So it's going to clean up our server, basically. Wrong package, wrong model, all this stuff. So yeah, we could have probably avoided this issue if we had given it the docs up front, but that's okay. We'll clean that pretty quick.
I don't know, man. It took me like a good 20 minutes to get this thing to work. So maybe you have better luck.
Yeah, I've also done this one before. Kind of like the headshot thing, and usually it just makes this mistake of like not using the correct up-to-date information. I actually partially did this on purpose because I think it's useful for people to see like the loop of like we tried something, it broke, we read why it broke, right? It actually gave us like a very useful error message if you just read it. Immediately figured out what the problem is, grabbed the relevant information to fix it, pasted it in, and then did it again.
Yeah, it's all this like installing stuff or like picking the right version that's like a pain in the ass with these vibe coding tools.
Yeah, for sure. As an aside, by the way, like some people might be watching this and thinking like, oh wow, this is a lot more difficult than Lovable or Bolt or something similar. And to that, I would say like generally I agree. It's more challenging, but I also think that like one is you're learning how things actually work, which is good. And then two is like, I do think those tools have kind of a bar that is, let's say, lower. So you can't get as far as you can with some of these more like power tools.
I mean, you're going to run into the same API issue using Lovable and Bolt, right? Because they have the same model behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do like Claude Code better than like the Lovable agent and the Bolt agent, but yeah.
Bolt has recently switched to, I think Bolt now you can use Claude and Codex agents. Supposedly.
Yeah, inside of Bolt. Yeah, that's a pretty cool decision generally to like try to go down that path.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see what we got here. There we go.
Nice.
We have our headshot. So theoretically, we now have, I mean, we probably want to delete some stuff in the template, right? Like the AI chat and some other stuff. But we now have our professional headshot editor. We have to like do some basic prompting to put in our own logo and stuff. Maybe rearrange the pages a little bit. But yeah, we used 1 out of 5 this month.
Oh, you gotta use my best template, dude. You're not using my best template.
What's that? Do you want to restart that whole thing?
No, yeah. Can you just upload a picture again?
Sure. Let's give it a try. So let's
you gotta use the third one. The one on the right.
Third one. Executive portrait. Okay. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so we also store your past headshots in the database, and we'll take a look at the database in a second. Here's our executive one. There you go.
That looks good. Yeah. That looks good.
Yeah. So yeah, let's take a look at the database and let's just refresh here and we'll see what tables we have, right? So we have headshots now. We have a new table and it's storing the user ID and the style. And anything else? Maybe that is it.
Wait.
That was
okay, got that. That is it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I think that was the only change that I made to the database. Just storing their past history of like using the tool. And if we head back over, we can see that down below. That's basically how this is showing up, right? Our past headshots. As I mentioned, I'm not storing the images right now. I just wanted to do that to save a little bit of time. But ideally, we'd be storing the files for the images as well.
But how did I know to start storing this stuff? It was part of your
so part of the template includes all this like database access patterns that are already in the code. And so generally speaking, when you put in a prompt, it's going to follow the code that's already there.
Okay.
And so it just sets it up following all the existing patterns and everything works. So that's why like it's much easier to one-shot something on top of an existing template than it is to one-shot something from scratch.
Yeah.
Because all this stuff already works. And one other thing, just for fun, and we might be running short on time, but let me pull this up here. I also have product analytics hooked up to this already. So we can see like our number of, daily active users and how many times they're visiting and all this good stuff inside of the template as well. So like you can kind of, as I said, add in all these third-party integrations and all that kind of good stuff to make this more like a real product and less like, you know, a vibe-coded thing.
So basically, let's recap the steps, okay, to build a real product.
Sure.
So first of all, we gotta use your magical template, right?
I would say it's a good idea to use a template, and there's more than mine available on the internet. So, you know, find one that you like. But yeah, template's a good idea.
Okay, we'll put a link to your template or your course below this. But I think there's also like free templates, right? This is not just purely to sell your course. There actually is free SaaS templates, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you want to use mine, obviously that's an option. It comes included with the course, but there's free ones you can use as well.
And just like search on GitHub or something.
Yeah, I mean, Vercel has some really good ones. But if you look Google like the technology, so it's going to be like, you know, Next.js boilerplate template or Node React template, and it'll come with all this stuff.
Okay, got it. Okay, so number one is to use the template. Number two is to like start building in a template with like, you know, some like Cursor or VS Code or something, right? Mm-hmm. And your preferred combination right now is VS Code plus Codex. Yes. Yeah.
I know we demoed Claude Code here, and it worked pretty well. But I'm using Codex more especially for larger code bases. I find it works better. But either is fine. I think Claude Code or Codex.
Okay. And then number three is to add a bunch of API keys, right? For like is that it?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're trying to do, but like, yeah. So you need your key for like Stripe. For payment, I assume you want that one. You need your auth stuff for like your Google login, right? You probably want file storage if you're doing anything with files. So like, yeah, there's a couple of keys you need to kind of add in for those things.
Got it. And then how do you put this whole thing on the interwebs? Like how do you?
Yeah, good question.
Yes.
So typically I use a service called Render for deployments. What we would do is we basically sync this code to GitHub. We'd commit it back to GitHub. Mm-hmm. And then Render would automatically deploy it whenever we make an update in GitHub. So that's one option. Another option is like if that feels too sophisticated, you can also use this template inside of Replit. And that's what a lot of students are doing currently in my cohort. So they're not even doing it in a local setup. They're just importing the template into Replit. Replit gives them the database. Replit gives them the server. They click a button to publish. So they kind of get the best of both worlds.
They first import a template into Replit, or they import the whole app into Replit?
Yeah, like the whole template that we kind of went through and modified, they import that whole thing into Replit.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. All right, looks like I have to take your course again.
Yeah. One other thing, just to plug it, just, you know, it's my job, is the course also comes with like dedicated engineering support. So I know it's like a challenge that a lot of people have. And I really tried to do my best to like get rid of all of the barriers. So as I mentioned, like the template is pen tested for security. You get engineering support, you get a template so like you don't have to figure out the Stripe integration yourself. And then obviously it's an 8-week course. So you have like plenty of support and other students and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Awesome, dude. And let me just close on this, man. Like if you're taking Colin's courses, like you should really like the point of the course is to actually build something and hopefully like make some money, you know, from your software tool, right?
Right.
It's like, you know, don't just take his courses to get credentials, you know?
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Maybe this is a bad thing for me to say, but like I'm actually not a huge fan of credentials, especially in product or in tech. Like as a mechanism of advancing your career, I think the experience is what makes you better, right? Like the skill. So that's the main thing is like learn the skill and then like get a material outcome, like build yourself a side project that makes some revenue. That's way cooler than like having a certificate. So that's my opinion anyway.
But we went to see my SaaS app to generate certificates, dude.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I was kidding.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming again. This is a great chat.
Yeah.
And if you want to find Colin, you can follow him on LinkedIn, right?
Yep.
Is there anywhere else to follow you?
Substack. Yeah, actually, I have my own podcast. If you want to see people building SaaS apps, I interview them now, mostly PMs.
Okay.
So it's called Built with AI on YouTube right now, and I have to get the Spotify thing up, but you can check that out if you're interested.
And we also have a community together, right?
Yeah, so we do for sure. Yeah, there's that one too.
Cool.
We have I think we're almost 700 people strong now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So sign up for our newsletters if you want to join our community.
Cool.
All right. I think that's it. Thanks so much, Colin.
All right. Yeah, no worries.